Hi, everyone. My name is Kendrick, and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today, I get to interview Mike. So, Mike, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
For sure, dude. So, Mike, can you give us your full type?
Sure. So I am a double masculine Ti-Se consume, sleep, blast, play.
And when you got your results back, what did you think and how did you feel?
I felt pretty good. You know, it's like in between the time that I sent my typing materials and received my official typing, like about a week before receiving it, I had narrowed myself down to decider with Ti somewhere in the stack and double masculine. So that felt cool to get that part of it right. I was confused. I was most confused about SE because I was sure that I was SI because I'm not really usually jumping around doing physical things. But then eventually I realized, you know, like I'm sort of SEing in my thought process about it. I'm like sort of comparing myself on a spectrum to other more obvious SE people. And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
And you said that you have a rare type, and that's pretty exciting for you, would you say? That you have a pretty rare type?
Yeah, that is exciting for me. I felt pretty good about that. Yeah, according to Dave, I was the first guy of that exact type that they have.
Oh, sweet. That must have been exciting for them too, because it's like, oh, finally we have like somebody here, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I bet it was.
So let's start with your first animal, which is consume. So that is ST consume. How do you experience your ST consume?
Right on. Yeah. Well, my ST consume, I spend the vast majority of my time taking in excessive amounts of information on topics that I'm interested in. I'm usually interested in like figuring out how certain things work. Like for instance, like right now I'm learning about chess. So I've been consuming a lot of, actually, you know what? My consume is very much like just going out and like, it's a lot like play, but like just with myself. Like the way I've been learning chess, for example, is just like playing game after game after game online. And yeah, it's not a very efficient process, but over time I develop an understanding of how it works and different things I can do to win. So yeah, that's one example.
Are you playing with a computer or are you playing with other players online?
I'm playing with other players online.
Okay, I thought you're playing by yourself because play last, right? So
the nice thing about online chess is I don't have to talk to anybody.
Gotcha. And you are NT second, which is TINI, and your NT is double feminine. So how do you experience your double feminine NT sleep?
My double feminine NT sleep, yes. It's well, the inside of my brain is very flowy. Like sometimes it feels like there's nothing in there, but like almost on an unconscious level, I'm thinking about various topics that I'm interested in, and if I've taken in enough information about it, patterns begin to materialize in my head. I sort of understand connections between various things that I've consumed, and I occasionally can come up with my own frameworks of understanding about that information. Now, the feminine TI is interesting because I don't have that internal clarity that I feel like a lot of masculine TIs have. So on the one hand, that's kind of nice because it feels like I have a bit of a sort of open-mindedness about various topics. The negative side of it is I can be sometimes sort of lazy with my thinking, and also I think partially due to my demon and I sort of a resistance to rigid, systematized forms of thinking. Like, for example, like if you go on leftist Twitter, you'll get a lot of people tweeting like, you must adopt this particular anti-capitalist view. And merely because I'm a sort of a lazy thinker and resistant to systems thinking, I'm like, do I have to?
Well,
So it's like so it's a very flowy sort of internal process.
yeah, maybe because also you're an EP, so you're kind of rebellious. Also, you're like an IPEP, right? So there's like a you're partly rebellious.
Right. I definitely relate a lot to the EP. Don't control me, bro. Although I guess technically I'm an IPIJ because my control function is double activated, my NI.
Yeah, so you're an IPEPIJ then.
Yes, IPEPIJ.
Yeah, you're like a hybrid of a lot of things.
That's right. And
yeah.
then when my Demon Blast comes out, I'm like an IPEPIJEJ.
Yeah. So is your truth flexible then, since your TI is feminine?
Could you repeat that, please?
Are your truths flexible because of that feminine TI?
Yes, my truths are very flexible. I will, one day I'll come to some conclusion that feels really true. And then the next day I'll be like, no, that doesn't feel true to me anymore. And then just that process just repeats over and over again.
And then you have masculine SE. So do you do that stereotypical SE masculine stuff? Like, when do you lift weights, by the way?
I've been meaning to get into lifting weights for a long time. I'm very interested in lifting weights. I tried to go to the gym a couple of times, but like I just couldn't stick to the routine. But I am very interested in weightlifting, and I've actually read a lot of material about weightlifting, but I haven't actually started doing it in a in a routinized kind of way.
Yeah, it's kind of like the funny what do you call it? Like the funny saying where people say, people trying to learn kung fu by watching kung fu movies, like that kind of deal.
that is exactly what I do. That's how I do it.
But okay, cool. But so people with masculine SE, they apparently they like to when they like to throw things, or like they're like when they like people who lift weights who are masculine SE, they like to like just drop the weights on the floor and it makes like a loud like impact sound, especially the double masculine like SE people, they're like rah, So do you do that at home? Like you just like slam the door or like huck things like across the room? Like is that something that you do with a masculine SE?
Yep, I definitely do that.
Like have you broken anything like doing that? Like like people with masculine SE, they're playing video games and they lose and they'll like smash a controller. Is that like something that you do?
Oh yeah, I do. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I do. I got a nice pair of headphones that I've been abusing after going on a losing streak in chess, for example.
So it is true that you guys do that. Okay, I was wondering about that.
It's definitely true in my case. Yes.
Okay, yeah, especially because you're double masculine, so you're very kinesthetic too, right? So you like to like just smash things,
Yes, I like to. Well, it's not so much that I like to do it. It's just like, and especially with like the demon masculine Fe at the bottom, like I feel negative emotions very intensely and very kinesthetically. I feel like a heat like right up here in my temple,
right.
And it sort of begs for some kind of physical release.
Yeah.
So smashing or throwing stuff has been a very sort of easy go-to for that kind of release.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move away from that because it's not really cool for a grown man to be smashing or throwing things. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, you could go to like a like a driving range or a batting cage, right? That's a good way for you to like get those pent up, aggression to come out, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely looking for a more constructive means of getting that physical release for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk about your blast. Your blast is NF, and you have it on a demon state, but it's not last. So technically, you have NF blast present. Technically, you can use it in a hobby state. So, how do you experience your NF blast, or how do you use it personally?
Well, my NF blast, in my day-to-day life, I usually experience it like if someone tries to talk to me about some emotional topic, I find I'll usually respond with like some sort of general statement of empathy, like, yeah, like sometimes that's how it goes, stuff like that, sort of generalized statements of empathy. My girlfriend makes fun of me a lot for that. It's like, so I was like, you and your sayings. I'm like, yeah, that is something I do. Now in negative moments, like in moments where it comes out in like a more obvious demon state, I'm sort of ashamed to admit it comes out very scoldy. Like I'll sometimes like scold people in like an emotional fashion. Like if I feel like they're doing something that I perceive to be not good. I have sort of a humorous example if you'd like to hear.
Yeah, go for it.
Nice. So I was at a party once, and there was this guy who he like turned his sweatshirt into like sort of like a whip, and he whipped me in the butt.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that was weird. I'm sorry. Can I curse? Is that all right?
Yeah. You can drop all the F-bombs you want.
All right. Fuck yeah. So he whipped me in the ass. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And then he started whipping other people in the ass. And then my demon blast just came out. I was like, hey, stop it. And he stopped. And he didn't seem too fazed by it. I guess he may have been a double decider. He just sort of let it roll off.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's sort of a light example of my demon blast. But yeah, I'm ashamed of how it comes out sometimes. I can seem like a real jerk sometimes when I use my demon blast.
One of your, I don't know if he was in your doc when you got typed, but Conor McGregor is also a double masculine ISTP. And
Oh yeah.
And I was watching a video of him when he was being interviewed by Tony Robbins, and he was talking about the secret, which is pretty much how he manifested, all his success in MMA. How he became like, the first 2 division champion and whatnot, and how he became like a multi-millionaire, net worth over $100 million, right? So he said that he owes it to a book that he's like, I think it was his sister that gave it to him. It was like a book. It's like a really NF book, right? Like very woo woo, like put something out in the universe and then the universe will manifest it for you. And he really believed it, and which is kind of crazy because he's an ISTP, right? ISTPs
Yeah.
really like believe like anything that's not factual, but because he had like that NF third, and because his TI was feminine, I guess that he actually like believed it. So would you say that you believe in this kind of stuff too? Like, like a lot of the NF concepts that about like manifesting things from the abstract world, or is that something that you completely think is BS?
I'd say my personal view of that is somewhere in the middle. Like I don't think I see a lot of value in those things. Like they certainly don't pass any like level of scrutiny when it comes to like logic or like science or whatever. But I think they are those sort of NF concepts, like the secret or like astrology, or like one might even argue personality typology. I think they offer an immense amount of value in understanding other people and developing empathy for others. Like, so yeah, stuff like that. I definitely place a lot of stock in personality typology in particular for providing that value. And as far as the other stuff goes, like astrology or like the secret, I'm like, like if it works for a person, great. I'm not gonna shit on it.
Gotcha. Let's talk about your play last. So this is the interesting one. Your double masculine play last. So even though it's last, it's like like you can see it. Most people can see their last animal if it's double masculine. So how do you see your double masculine SF play?
Oh yeah, my double masculine SF play. Well, I think deep down, I'm a pretty playful guy. Like if I'm with a group of people or like even an individual person that I feel comfortable with, I can be really goofy and sometimes jovial. My sense of humor is very broad and sometimes dumb. Like I love like funny voices and faces and slapstick humor. I don't know if you've ever seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but like the scene when this one guy just gets like repeatedly hitting the balls with a baseball bat, like that was like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Gotcha. Okay, I
So
can
like,
I can picture what you like then.
yeah, very broad. I like slapstick. I like goofy stuff. But it takes a very extreme level of comfort for me to show that side of myself to other people. Like usually I'm fairly quiet and like fairly serious in my communication.
So I think Adam Sandler is a similar type as you. Right? I think he's also play last, double masculine also.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think so. I'm not sure what his exact type is. I don't remember. I think I briefly saw it as like he might be like a jumper, like maybe like Ni or sorry Ti-Ni, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember clearly. But I remember he was an ISTP and he was double masculine, and I think he did have play last like you, which I think is very interesting because he's a comedian, right? And he's playful. He's playing all the time, so he's definitely using his demon. Um, do you relate to his kind of humor too? Like, I don't know if you saw Happy Gilmore where he was standing in the batting cage and he was getting shot in the face with like the ball. You know, like
Oh, I haven't actually seen Happy Gilmore, but I think I probably would like
yeah,
that scene. Isn't that like also? Is that the one where he plays golf? I don't remember.
yeah. That's the one where like he fights with that what's his name? The guy from is it Jeopardy or something? Or is it someone else?
Oh,
Oh, Price is Right.
yeah.
I don't know if it was
Was
for
it?
Price is Right or if it's Jeopardy. I forgot.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. The only thing I remember from that movie, I think of the Tiger Woods class in Objective Personality. They had like a clip at the end of it when like he goes up and like hits some old guy with a golf club.
Yeah, that could have been I think it's Bob Barker that he hit like with the
Yeah, Bob Barker.
yeah. I don't know if I don't know if it's the right one. Like I'm not sure. It's been a while since I saw the movie, but I think I saw him like punching him. He said the price is wrong, bitch, and then like he punches. Like, you know?
That is the exact kind of thing that will get me. I love shit
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. It's funny to everyone, I think, because it's really good. Um, yeah, I think because you're also double masculine, so you like that, like the physical, you know, aggressive humor too. You know.
I do, yeah.
So if you're play last, does that mean you're always not doing things for the tribe? Like you're always avoiding doing things for other people? Is that something that you tend to do? Would you say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I yeah, I think I was notorious in college for like sort of just like abandoning plans that I had set with other people. Like I would let them know that I wasn't coming, but like very short in advance. I was like, it's not like I never went to parties, but I was always sort of afraid, like because my blast is above play. Like in general, I'd rather like talk to one person one on one than like hang out with like a group of people, sort of due to like fear of like tribe judgment.
But when
It's
you
sort of
go
like,
to parties, though, do you enjoy yourself?
yeah, like, yeah, like it's different with everyone, but like, if I can find a group that I gel with at the place, then I have a great time.
And would you say you're very flaky then when it comes to making plans with people?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a big part of that does come from fear of tribe hate. And ironically, it's a it's a vicious cycle because, like, you know, you make plans and then you abandon the plans, and then people are like, oh, fuck that guy, he never comes to the
Right.
stuff we invite him to. So
Yeah.
it's a vicious cycle. And I'm not great at maintaining friendships either. There's a lot of people that I wish I was better friends with, but like due to my own ineptitude and neglect at friendship maintenance, we're just not as good friends as we probably could be.
Gotcha. It's, yeah, like you said, it's a vicious cycle, because if had you just gone to those parties that you were invited to, or give them away a heads up, then there's no tribe hate for you, you know, because it's, they just wanted you to show up, right? You know, there's no really expectation but to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now, because how do you experience tribe hate though? Like how do you like, how does that, what is that like, you know, to be constantly afraid of the tribe, you know, like what is that like?
Oh, it's exhausting. You know, it's like, because of my masculine Fe, I have always viewed the tribe as this sort of scary entity, which is, it's a very unpleasant way to go through life. I mean, I have my double feminine inner world, which is very flowy and very easy. And I perceive the outside extroverted world as like very sort of blocky and sort of harsh, which more often than not couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, like pretty much everyone I interact with, I mean, obviously you're going to come upon some assholes every once in a while, but the vast majority of the people that I've interacted with have been really nice and really understanding. Like, you know, if you open up to them about your emotions or your fears, your anxiety, I found that many of them are just really, really kind people. But because of that fear, the temptation to just stay at home and do nothing and like work on my own introverted projects is through the roof, and I frequently fail to resist that temptation.
Let's talk about your fourth function, Fe. You were talking about emotions just now. Would you say that you are in touch with your emotions, and you know, you can talk about your emotions at least to yourself, if not to maybe your girlfriend? Like, is that something that you are able to talk about easier? You know, they always, the ISTPs tend to have a perception of being like kind of like robotic, but you know, like devoid of emotions. But would you say because you are double feminine inside that you have better, or you're more in touch with emotion? Would you say?
That's a good question. I think I'm reasonably in touch with my emotions. Like I know they're there. Sometimes I struggle to put words to them. Like I often need to, like if I feel a certain way, I need to like wait a little bit, maybe like a few minutes, maybe an hour, sometimes even a couple of days before I really know what I'm feeling. I think over time I've gotten better at communicating about them to people. Because it's at the bottom and a demon and masculine, frequently my emotions come out as anger. And I feel, in general, I feel very in touch with my anger. And it often comes out in a very sudden, very extreme way that is occasionally frightening to the people around me. So actually, one of the things I'm working on now is getting more in touch with the underlying emotions that are at the core of anger, because they say anger is a secondary emotion. Like there's usually something behind it, like fear or pain. So I'm trying to work on getting better at expressing those feelings, and I'd say in the past couple of months I've seen some improvement. You know, I've been able to have some really constructive talks with my girlfriend about various emotional things.
Yeah, anger is an iceberg emotion. So there's definitely something a lot more underneath it that could cause that anger. Like when I got typed by Dave and Chan, I told them that, you know, anger is the second emotion, negative emotion that I've been dealing with my whole life. And I actually ended up seeing a counselor about it, just I was curious to kind of delve deeper into it. And for me, she gave me like a chart. Okay, he's like, okay, which one of these under anger, represent best on what is causing you to be angry? And I was looking at it. I was like, yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And then suddenly there was one. It was like disrespected. I was like, oh, that's the one, number one. That is like the one, like I felt disrespected. So now, which is, it's good to know that, right? Like once you pinpoint the exact emotion that you're feeling, then now you can do something about it, right? Because now you know exactly what it is. So I was like, okay, why am I feeling disrespected? Well, I'm double downing on the tribe and play blast, right? I'm like, you're opposite. So I'm like, okay, I feel disrespected because the tribe, I feel disrespected by them. You know, I have to deal with like, flaky tribe members. No offense.
At least I showed up to this thing.
No, no, that was, you're the one who asked for the interview, which is I thought it was really growth mindset of you to do that. Like when you send me an email, I'm like, what? Like, what's the world coming to a play last person? It's like requesting an interview. This is awesome. Hey, you know what, man? This is like the best step I've ever seen anyone take, for a play last. So, good for you, dude. But
that's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, no, like that is like when a play last person asks for an interview, that is like growth mindset right there. That is like, I don't know what the definition of growth mindset, but that is it. So like it kind of
Nice.
like anything that's screwed up that you did in the past, you can kind of say, you know what, that's in the past now. From here on out, it's time to do things right. So, but yeah, so flaky tribe members and also like people that but really it was my fault because I was overreaching to the tribe instead of I just like doing my own shit. Like I was too available to help people and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that. Like from now, so I actually end up cutting out a bunch of people, and I'm putting like parameters now. So like like I have SI last, right? So I'm setting rules now. It's kind of like it's funny. It's like if you screw me over, I don't talk to you for 1 year. That's like one of the rules I have now, right? I'll cut you out from everything, and I won't uncut you out until 1 year later. So it's like I'm working on my like setting boundaries, but you're kind of the opposite. So you're good at setting boundaries because you have like that sleep second, but then play is where you have trouble with, like, which is like, how do I serve the tribe? How do I help people? Because it comes back to you, right? When you help people, then they think fondly of you, right? And then you're not going to get tribe hate. It's going to be the opposite. You're going to get tribe love, if anything.
That's right. Yeah.
So have you tried practicing that play last, to improve your life? And instead of getting the negative tidal wave from it, which is tribe hate, you'll get like the positive tidal wave from it, which is like everyone likes you.
Yeah, I've had some periods in my life where I've tried to exercise my play last, and I've had some success with it. I mean, like in college, for example, like when I would actually show up to like a party or whatever and like try to gel with people, usually they'd end up liking me. When I go out with my girlfriend, meet up with some of her friends, it's funny. I think because my Fe is a demon, I usually can't really accurately see how people are perceiving me in an emotional way. There have been multiple moments where, like, after we leave from the place that we met up with her friends, she's like, "Yeah, they really liked you." I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, dang, that's awesome." But it's like completely invisible to me. But yeah, I have found that like just sort of buckling down and like riding out the discomfort, it usually works well, because a lot of the perception of possible tribe hate is really just internal. It's just me projecting my own fears onto other people.
Do you want a lot of people to like you? Is that something that you want?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, my deep desire is the SF popularity to the extreme.
Really?
I just go about it in incredibly backwards ways.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I'm just curious because I don't know how it is from you guys' perspective, like the ISTPs, where like, do you guys want people to like you, or do you just want to do your own shit? Like, what is it like? What's happening here? Like, I'm always curious, right? So, so
Yeah.
based on your perspective, it sounds like, yeah, you do want a lot of people to like you. You want to have a lot of friends. Does it sound accurate?
Oh yeah. I think the problem is I mean, I'll just speak for myself. You know, I want it all. I want a lot of friends, and I want people to like me, and I want to do my own shit and have nobody bother me. So those are sort of contradictory desires. And usually because, you know, I'm consumed sleep, I lean towards the doing my own thing, nobody bother me side of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can do both. I mean, because
That's true.
I'm a double decider, right? So I'm like, kind of, like, you don't have to just do one. You know, it's not hard to do both. Actually, you know, like sometimes you schedule with your friends, sometimes you do stuff by yourself. You know, I mean, easy for me to say, obviously, because I'm a double decider. You know, like you know, you're a double observer, right? So some of the stuff that you do that you think is like a joke, it's like, for me, it's like, really? You can just do that? You know, like for you, for example, gathering and organizing, would you say that's pretty much like easy for you? You're like, yeah, no, I'll gather something and I'll organize it. Like, is that something that's pretty easy for you?
Yeah, I'd say that's relatively easy. Yeah, I have less of a problem with that than the self-tribe stuff. Like, obviously, I'll take in extreme amounts of information on topics that I'm interested in, and over time, I will organize them into like sort of a framework of understanding with my NI. And like, apparently, like, according to Dave and Shan, you know, like, if you got double observers in the middle, you can sort of like mimic SI or, you know, NE or whatever. And I've found that to be true as well. I mean, like, recently, sort of a serious example, I started drinking a lot of beer, and I sort of mentioned offhandedly to my girlfriend, hey, I've been drinking a lot of beer lately, and she got really freaked out. She was like, "Oh my god, you should really get that under control." And I was like, yeah, you're right. So, like, within a week, I wasn't drinking any beer. So,
Oh,
like, so the gathering, at least from my perspective, that seems like an instance where I was gathering a lot, and then I was like, okay, I need to organize a little bit, and I was able to do it pretty easily.
gotcha. Wow. Okay. So it's just like a snap of a finger. You're like, you know what? I wanted to stop, so I did. You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, like a pure EP can't hit the brakes, right? We'll like fall off the cliff before we hit the brakes, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like over gathering without any organizing. So does that mean you are also okay in general when it comes to, you know, anything in life that's like gathering, organizing? Like, for example, like money. You know, like, are you good at, like, you know, I'll earn money and I'll put in the bank. You know, like, that's not something that you have trouble with.
Yeah, that's generally not a problem for me. I'll earn some money. I'll put it in the bank. I'll every once in a while I'll make some extravagant purchase, but I always make sure to check my balance, see how much I got left. So yeah, that managing that kind of stuff comes pretty easy to me. Like, stuff like taxes, that's fine. That's not a problem for me.
You're not like the INTJs who freak out when your printer breaks, like whatever. Like,
No, I mean, like, I sometimes I wished I was. That seems like a nice problem to have.
no, yeah, no, you know what, like IPs, like INTPs and ISTPs, you guys are like one of the smartest types out there, if not the smartest. But then I would still rather not have your problems. You know, like,
Oh yeah.
I'd gladly be dumber and have less problems than you guys. You know, I think
Oh yeah.
I think
Same.
I think people problems, man. That is tough. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know, like, that is such like a huge problem. You know, like things problem. Like, I have things problem, but man, I'm glad I have things problem. You know,
Oh yeah.
like not trying to rub it in your face, but like I'm just saying, like, you know, like,
Oh no, yeah. I agree 100%. I mean, when you think about it, life is people, you know, like, everything you do in life involves interacting with people. So
yeah.
if you have a major people problem like myself, then life is really hard in some ways.
It is. It's so hard. I mean, like, you can achieve so much, yet, you know, like the problem with IPs, right? It's like you achieve a lot, but no one cares because you've been selfish your whole life, and
Yeah.
like you're like, hey, I invented this coolest thing ever, and then like it's like, you know, tumbleweed, you know, like just rolling, like there's, you know.
Oh yeah, that is exactly my experience. I mean, like, I put out some music recently, and I was so excited about it. I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna change the world. People are gonna love it. I put it out, and like, you know, like some of my close friends, they gave it a like on Facebook, but it did not set the world on fire
Yeah.
in the way that I thought it would. And it's like, you know, if you're just IPing the whole time, you know, you're not doing any of the work to get the tribe on board with what you're doing, then yeah, it is going to come out to just crickets. That's definitely been my experience.
What I like about the IPs though is that at least IPs embody the message that they're trying to, like they embody that thing that they're creating, you know, the EJs, for example, like one of my frustrations with EJs is that, you know, they'll be preaching a lot of like cool stuff to the world and trying to help everyone. But then when you look at the EJ, not all EJs, of course, some EJs are well developed, which is awesome, you know. But a lot of EJs, you look at them, you're like, what? You don't embody your message. Like Oprah, for example, right? Like, you know, like not shitting on her, but you know, like one of the biggest criticism that she gets is that, you know, she gives marriage advice, but she's not married. She gives like, you know, she has like a book club, but she doesn't read. She's consume last, right? And then she, you know, like, you know, she's trying to teach people how to be fit, but then she's, you know, overweight, right? Like it's like, you know, like it's kind of hard to take someone seriously when you don't embody the message. I mean, what's going on for her is social proof. I don't know if you've read the book Influence, but social proof pretty much means like, you know, if everyone sees that you're popular, then they probably think you're important, you know. So I think that's like the main thing going on for her is that like she's super popular and, you know, well established on television. That's why people take her seriously, even though she doesn't embody her message per se, you know. But like with IPs, right? Like when you see an IP, usually like they are that thing that they're trying to tell you, and you know, you just take them seriously because you know you guys do embody that stuff, you know. Um, like
Yeah.
the way I see it is like IPs break the barrier to what is possible. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Nice. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, like you know, like Conor McGregor, like no one had two belts at one time until he did it. You know, now everyone's been getting two belts at one time, but before he had two belts, no one had two belts. You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like the 4 minute mile.
Yeah, the 4 minute
What's
mile.
up?
Right? It's probably an IP who did it, right? Like, you know,
Probably.
um, like I don't know what other IPs is there that has done something huge. Maybe Alex Honnold. Do you know that guy, the rock climber who?
Oh yeah. Alex Honnold. Oh
He,
yeah. Yeah.
he seems like an IP to me, but I'm not sure. You know.
Yeah.
And
That would be my guess as well.
yeah, like no one has done like a free climb of that mountain until him, right? Actually, no one has done it still. He's nuts, right?
Oh yeah. He is a crazy person.
Yeah,
But mad respect to him though.
yeah, but I think that's more Fi. That's not Ti. You know, I don't think a Ti person would like try to climb that mountain without like any rope. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's FI as well. Like I know he was talking a lot about values in that documentary.
Yeah. So, um, let's talk about your auditory because you brought it up earlier. You said that you put out music onto Facebook and you thought it's gonna, set the world on fire, but nothing happened. But at the same time, you are still auditory. Like you make your own music. Then I'm guessing you're a musician or like a.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a musician. I yeah. I have a good ear. Like I can pretty exactly replicate what I hear like on like a musical instrument like guitar. I play guitar and I also play bass. Now, I don't know how legit the whole audio kinesthetic thing is like really, but I do know like perhaps because I'm double masculine, I'm not the most talented at melody. Like what comes more naturally to me is rhythm. So, and I know that's sort of something that I have in common with like Eminem, like the rhythm of words and stuff. And my favorite instrument to play is bass because that's sort of a mixture of like a rhythm instrument and a melodic instrument. It's kind of like bongos. It's like a bongos with strings. That's what I like to call it.
It's also kinesthetic too, I think. So that plays.
Yes, yes, very kinesthetic.
Yeah, I think all the drummers are probably like double masculine or masculine feminine. Like they've got to be, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Got to have that masculine sensory.
Let's talk about your feminine NI. So because your NI is feminine, do you tend to forget concepts that you've learned? Like, do you tend to have a bad memory when it comes to concepts and patterns?
Um, it depends. Like, I'd say I definitely have a worse memory for concepts than I do facts and details. I will say, like, because my intuition function is introverted, I sort of personalize my own concepts sometimes, and those I can remember, like stuff that I come up with myself. I I'll remember that forever. But like concepts that like I read in a book, I'll like forget it the next day, or I'll remember like the gist of it, but I won't remember how to implement it.
Gotcha. You are also an info dominant person. So talk about, obsessing with having the most accurate information.
Oh yeah, yeah. Accuracy is very important to me. I like to tell the truth. I mean, maybe if I was a better liar, I would do it more. But I don't really have the gift of spin or guile. I pretty much just tell it like it is, like reporting the facts. It's funny, did you ever watch the John Jones class?
No, I have not.
Oh, there's this really funny moment where he's being pulled over by this cop and he's like arguing the ST with the cop. The cop's like, "Oh, you went over the speed limit after this red light." And John Jones, he's like, "Did you see me? Did you see me driving at that speed?" Like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was nitpicking the facts to such an intense degree. And I know he's energy dominant, but like, I think that is actually a very good representation of the info dominance, the info dominant credo, like at least from my perspective. Like if I find myself in a tense situation, I will find myself nitpicking the facts to an absurd degree as my first line of attack for sure.
What about the energy side of things? So because you are info dominant, the energy side is where you're gonna have issues. And apparently play last people have very low energy. Would you say you have low energy levels?
Yeah, definitely. Like getting me to do anything of my own accord can be like pulling teeth sometimes. I'm like very much inclined to just sit down and do nothing. I feel very lucky when I have savior play or at least not play last people in my life, because then I can just sort of follow what they're doing. I think my girlfriend's savior play, or at the very least, she's not play last.
That's probably where going to the gym will help you, because then you'll have more energy. It's like,
Yeah, definitely. I gotta get some exercise in there for sure.
yeah, that's what I noticed with a lot of people who are, play third and fourth, is that they're like lethargic, like. But then, I work in a fitness industry and I've had clients who are low play, and then I force them to do like high intensity interval training, which they hate. But then after they do it, they suddenly become so extroverted, and I'm like, huh. So you just needed to work out then, and then after they work out for a while, then they go in a good groove where they're like energetic and they're like normal. But then when they stop working out for like a week or two, oh my god, then it's really bad. Then it's so hard to get them back on, back on track.
That's so interesting. I actually really I like high intensity intervals when I do them, which is rare. But
Yeah, there you go. See, there you go. You just proved it. Like, you guys don't do it enough when you guys should be doing it like, once a week at least, just to get your energy levels up.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's a very observer solution to IP problems, by the way. It's like
well,
which I like.
Well, I just noticed it, it's like, a lot of like these people who are like, low energy. It's just because they don't exercise, you work out and then you suddenly become more energetic and more sociable all of a sudden. Probably all the endorphins in your body and dopamine high, like suddenly you're not afraid to try because you feel good, So
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, like I've had moments in my life when I felt really depressed and lethargic, and then I do one workout and I feel great. I'm like, why don't I do this every day? And then I don't do it the next day. But
yeah, man, that's like definitely the solution. Like a lot of people are like really depressive and stuff and lethargic and like feel hopeless. And I'm like, are you working out? That's the first thing I always think. You're like, are you working out? If you're not working out, then that's, you don't need to see a therapist. You need to go to the gym, you need to you need to see a personal trainer or something, like just, like get your ass moving, like don't sit in your ass. And that's why you're depressed, you're not moving,
yeah, I definitely think I think that's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Are we missing anything? I feel like I've asked you most of the questions already. I'm not sure if I forgot to ask you something. I feel like I'm missing something important.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I have SI fourth, right? So I'm always like forgetting things. Even though it's masculine, I tend to it fleets and just flies away. Um,
Gotcha.
do you have any questions for me while I'm trying to remember what I forgot to ask you?
Yeah, for pondering. I actually do have a question for you.
Cool.
So I have a lot of admiration for people with masculine introverted deciders, and particularly masculine FI. Like, I know you have masculine FI demon, right?
Right.
So I guess my question is, do you have any recommendations for people with feminine introverted deciders on how to get more of that internal push in their life?
Man, that's hard. I have to think of examples of people I know that had feminine introverted deciders. I have a friend that I think is double masculine for sure, because like he's I think he's an INTJ, but just observing the guy, I know he's like a control freak and he's scared of chaos. He seems to be a double decider, so I think that's why I think he's an INTJ. Plus, I'm an ENFP, so all my friends tend to be INTJs, ISTPs. Like all the people that ENFPs would hang out with, INFJs, those guys. And it's kind of like an interesting fellow because like he'll know what he wants, but then he'll forget or like not know what he wants later on. It's like really like it like just moves really quickly. And I remember when he used to like this girl at work, so he spent like 6 months, trying to like ask her out, and his strategy to get a date is just like pure persistence. It's just like just harass them until they give up and just finally like go out with you.
Mm.
So he ended up like dating this girl that was his coworker, who I think was an EP, because obviously IJs end up dating EPs. And then his EP, I think, girlfriend like destroyed his house, like something like because like like she left like the water running in the tub, and then the tub flooded the whole second floor, and then like the whole house got like flooded. And obviously he's an IJ, he's gonna have like things problem, like so in this case it was like a flooding house, but he almost like set it up that way because he wanted to break up with her. So it was like so he rather eat the cost of the repairs of the house than to like directly break up with a girl, even though he had masculine decider. I don't know, masculine like external decider. So but the one thing I noticed about him was that he uses NI usually to do things that he actually wants to do. Like when he wants to do something, it's not his FI that makes the decision, it's his NI. Like he'll project into the future a goal that he wants, that he kind of tunnel vision and obsess over. And then his FI automatically gets on board with it, is what I've seen. So I think for you, based on that guy's example, because he's really fit in the gym, it's because he meticulously set a plan for himself, because he has that NI, right? And then he bought all the supplements. Like he obsessed over supplements, right? Maybe it's like an FI thing. It's like, oh, the supplements are cool. He bought all the supplements. So now he has a supplement. and he's done the research on how he's gonna work out. He's also talked to people that like are really fit. You know, he has masculine SE, so like he tends to like have like man crushes to like really like jack dudes. Like, I don't know if you feel that way when you see another guy who's like super jacked. We're like, whoa, I'm inspired. I don't know if you feel that way, but you know, like
Yeah, sometimes.
yeah, like we used to have this classmate in high school that was this black guy who was like freaking like so strong, like he just benches like nothing. And he's like, oh, I'm such a fan. Like he's feminine FI. He's like, oh, like I'm such a fanboy. You know, like, you know, it's really funny. Because he's like really aggressive. Like he'll like swear at people's face, like fuck you, and he'll like, beat the shit out of people. But then when he admires someone, he's like such a girl. Like he's like, oh, I'm such a fan. Like, you know. And he'll get a notebook and he'll call someone like a bitch, like a skank, like all the nasty things you could ever imagine. But on the piece of paper, it's like contradictory to what he's saying. He'll draw like a picture of a heart, and it's like broken, and he'll put like write the girl's name on it, and he'll like look at it like all like sad and girly and shit. So so I think from just like this is not my perspective because I don't have feminine DI like you or like my buddy, but I just from what I've seen that work for him is that like literally he just uses an eye to plan for something in the future, number one. And then number two, talk to people that he admired that already has that thing that he wants, so he can like, have his man crush over that person and like fuel his like feminine DI. So that's the second one. And then I think the third one is just to like set yourself up to just get started on that thing that you want to do. Like, he already got the supplements, he already got the gym membership, he already talked to those people, he already made the plan. So might as well just do it, because he's already put all this framework around it. So even though the DI is feminine, the stuff around it has kind of holds him up, like, ready to do it, So I don't know if that makes sense to you or if that's something that you can see yourself doing, but maybe not talking to the person or like.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, that does make sense. That's some good advice.
Yeah, especially if you have NI, so you can definitely plan. It's feminine, but it's there, so you can definitely use it. I can see you using SE to go gather aggressively things that you needed to set yourself up and kind of like, use a double observer to kind of convince you to do it. Like, let's say you want to go to the gym, then go buy all this expensive stuff that, and then later on you're like, okay, well, I already paid for it, so I might as well go to the gym. Otherwise, you're not a good double observer, right? You're like, you gather, but you didn't organize, right? So, or you didn't build, let's say. So
Right.
I don't know, man. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just like my thought process.
Oh yeah, no, it does. It does make sense.
So I'm gonna ask you a few more questions and we'll wrap up the interview. The first one is,
all right.
They said that deciders have problems with pain. And for you specifically, because it's FE at the bottom, it's going to be emotional pain that you're going to try to avoid. So talk about avoiding emotional pain.
Yes, avoiding emotional pain. That is very much a theme of my life. Yeah, because I'm a decider, I take things very personally. There have been experiences throughout my childhood and my adolescence when like someone's called me like mean names, called me stupid, called me ugly, stuff like that. And I struggled with like internalizing that for a long time. And it actually, I don't know if it led me to avoidant behavior around emotional matters, but like that was the solution that I chose. Like just like avoid situations that cause me emotional pain. Like avoid answering questions in class so like no one can insult my intelligence, like not asking somebody out unless I was like really, really sure that they were into me, like sort of avoiding taking those chances, which now that I've become conscious of that behavior, I realize it was a mistake because I missed out on lots of good opportunities. So now Oh, and also I find that like when I get into like nowadays, like when I get into really vicious arguments with people, it's because I perceive them as like having a negative emotion towards me that I don't want to deal with. Like get that emotion out of my face. So that's sort of like trying to avoid emotional pain through aggression, which is also not good. So now my goal is to develop more of a tolerance for emotional pain, just like accepting it as a part of life and becoming more resilient to it. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that, but that's the NI goal for
That's
sure.
Mhm. You are TI leads, and they say that people who are TI lead are very competitive. Like, would you say you're competitive in nature? Like, do you feel like everything's a competition to you?
I definitely feel very competitive. I hate to lose, uh, and like more often than not, I'm competitive with myself. Like I want to. My number one goal is to become really good at things. I love like learning new skills and trying to become really good at something. I was a stand up comedian for a while. I went around the open mic scene in like around my college, and I wasn't necessarily competitive with other people. Like I never tried to undermine anybody or like trash talk them or like sabotage them in any way. But I saw those people like, okay, those guys are really good. I want to be as good as those guys. So I worked really hard and I eventually had some success. So there's definitely the competitive drive to improve my skills and become really really good at something.
Because you're a decider, do you get sucked into people talk when people are having like people conversations? You know, do you tend to get sucked in by them? You know, when someone's gossiping about someone, like, do you get sucked into that kind of stuff?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I am. In some ways, I'm a messy bitch who loves drama. Like I can't get enough of. Sometimes I can't get enough of gossip, and sometimes it's just too intense. Like it hits too close to some like emotional reference point in my life, and I'm just like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. So it's definitely I'm definitely either very interested in it or like very deeply affected by it.
Gotcha. Okay, so last two questions and we'll wrap the interview. So first one is, what advice can you give to fellow ISTPs on how you can personally, using your own, like something you would give yourself an advice to, I guess, how to work on that FE so you don't get tribe hate? You know, how do you prevent tribe hate? What have you done that was successful before?
Oh yeah, well, I would say I have a couple of pieces of advice. Number one, this is sort of the easy way. Like, if you can, try to turn your people problems into an observer problem. Like, here's an example. I was talking with someone I know who is older than me, who has a kid, and was made a decision involving sending the kid back to school, or like being open to the possibility of sending their kid back to school in person in a way that I found TI ridiculous and dumb. Uh, and I talked to the person about it, and I don't know what happened, but I just had this idea to like just ask for the missing information. Just be like, okay, like what's going on? Like you're making this decision, I don't agree with it. Can you tell me what the factors are that led you to make this decision? And then the person told me, went through all the information, and the person made a good case. Like it didn't seem like this ridiculous decision anymore. And I was like, okay, yeah, so yeah, that makes sense. And I found that like, from not turning it into like a decider problem, like, oh, you suck, and like bring it on more neutral turf, like double observer turf, I was able to deal with it in a way that was more constructive. So that would be the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice would be just, I don't know, like get over yourself. The tribe isn't nearly as scary as, yeah, the tribe isn't nearly as scary as you think they are. And that's for me as much as anyone. Like all the tribe fear, it's in your head. It's not real. If you just put yourself out there in some fashion, you will find people who like you and who you like, and you'll have good times with, and you'll have memories that you'll cherish for the rest of your life. Yeah, just go out and play. That's what I'd say.
Do you have a strong sense of self-importance, would you say, as an IP?
Self-importance. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes and no. I feel like I should become someone who is important. You know, it's like I have high standards for myself that I routinely fail to hold myself to. But like it's I believe that I have the capability to become the person that I was meant to be. I just in my day-to-day life, I fail to adopt behaviors to get there. So it's like I have a lot of self-importance for the person I could be. And I think I have a more realistic appraisal of who I am, which is just some guy, you know, with some problems and some strengths, you know.
Gotcha. All right, Mike, do you have any last minute question for me before we wrap up the interview?
Last minute questions. No, I don't, nothing's coming to mind.
Okay, awesome, dude. Well, Mike, thanks again for doing this interview with me. I really appreciate it, especially the fact that you're play last. That is like the shocker of the year, I think, which is awesome. I think you're like the second play last person that asked me for an interview, and you're the first single decider.
Oh, nice.
So
making history.
I know, yeah, you're making histories everywhere, you know. So that's like super awesome. You're on your path to building up that importance, then, you know. So that's awesome, dude. And
nice, thank you.
I do think the secret to our success in life lies on that fourth animal. I think you do that fourth animal, like only good things can happen. You know, that's what I think, at least. At the very least, you get a competitive advantage because other people are not doing that, right? So, so thanks again, dude. And yeah, take care and have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
All right, peace out.
Peace.